Whether he is your new favorite Marvel Universe character, or the character that you absolutely despise, welcome ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about The Amazing Spider-Man number 53, and in issue number 53, we're going to be going into more Spider-Goblin. Spoiler warning ahead, we will be diving into the contents of the issue, so if you haven't read it, just as a heads up. And if you enjoyed this video at any point, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's jump right into this comic. What is the Spider-Goblin? Well, that is no other than Peter Parker. The Green Goblin somehow managed to install a one-to-one copy persona of his Green Goblin character inside of Peter Parker's head. So whenever the Goblin character takes over, we get the Spider-Goblin character. In the previous issue, the Spider-Goblin and Chasm had an encounter. They fought to the point where Chasm managed to break Peter free of the Spider-Goblin persona, causing Peter to act on the little possible amount of wits that he was going to have before he switches back over to the Spider-Goblin. Now mind you, him switching over to the Spider-Goblin at any point is a genuine concern in the story that they're trying to tell. It's already been established that in the past he has switched over to the Green Goblin and ruined Peter's life in the smallest ways possible. Of course, building up to this overall story that they're telling right now. This entire story, since Peter has his wits back, he's trying to utilize the spear that he got from Kraven that removes the Goblin's sins, but we don't quite know what Peter is up to. It has been established that we have a said plan that Miss Marvel is trying to execute. We haven't been told exactly what that plan is. So what Spider-Man does with the spear itself is sort of jiggy-rig it with the Wrinkler device. Upon encountering the Green Goblin, he starts smacking him around with it. During the fight between the Spider-Goblin and the Green Goblin, they both jump down into the secret compartment in the Oscorp laboratory, and it seals away. But someone else managed to sneak in, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Now, while the Spider-Goblin and the Green Goblin are inside of this secret compartment of the laboratories, Spider-Man confronts the Green Goblin yet again with the spear. Before Spider-Man can impale the Green Goblin with the spear, and maybe free Norman Osborn of the Green Goblin's sins, the Green Goblin states that this is actually a part of his plan to get impaled. The reaction of what happens after gets left for the cliffhanger for the next issue. Although we do get to see the Goblin's sins leave Norman Osborn and go into Spider-Man, with the Green Goblin saying, "It was you, Peter. The sins want you." Now, even though it was slightly subtle, it was pretty obvious to me since I've been reading the ASM comics just non-stop. As Spider-Man had the wits about him going about his plan, it was definitely obvious that the Green Goblin was controlling Spider-Man during that process. Since we haven't been told specifically what Spider-Man's plan is, it's a little bit easier to figure out what the villain is trying to do with Spider-Man. In this case, while Spider-Man's trying to figure out how to jiggy-rig the Wrinkler device with the Kraven spear, the Green Goblin persona does jump in for a split moment. And this is when we get revealed that obviously Spider-Man, since he has his wits on him, he's trying to formulate the plan that he came up with long ago. But that gets thrown out the window because we know the Green Goblin can just jump in at any moment, so who cares? Sure, Spider-Man has his wits about him, but come on, dude. I'm not gonna believe that. What I will believe is the Green Goblin jumping in at any moment and just ruining this Wrinkler spear device. Sure enough, by the time I get to the end of the comic and the Green Goblin confirms that was part of his plan, I'm like, no fucking shit, dog. Although I will say the Green Goblin was definitely pretty entertaining in this issue. And I can't wait to see how he ends up screwing over Peter Parker with him transferring all his various business assets over to him. It has been told that the Green Goblin just wants Peter to have liability of all these assets, but we don't know exactly what that liability will be yet. And that's something I'm particularly interested to find out. Hopefully it's not a dog shit explanation, but you know. As for the friend that managed to sneak into the secret compartment of the Oscorp laboratories when both Spider-Man and the Green Goblin both fell in before the compartment closed, I can already see the living brain coming in clutch at some point in the very next issue. In this particular comic, the living brain does manage to figure out what the Green Goblin's plan is, but he doesn't state it for some reason. Instead, what the living brain does is act upon it, and he tells the Green Goblin, "Hey, I know what your plan is, and to combat it, watch this." And he just self-destructs and explodes. While the Green Goblin is looking away, the living brain's head lands inside of that secret Oscorp compartment where Spider-Man and the Green Goblin got trapped in at the end of the comic. Or, sorry, not trapped, but sealed off. Hopefully they continue making the living brain a cool character. Following up developing characters, let's talk about the random Oscorp employee. In the previous issues, he's just been in the background. They've kind of given him slight dialogue, but it hasn't been wasn't too important. This particular issue actually points out and establishes that his name is Doug. The editor also points out that he's apparently a huge Doug fan, even though he wasn't being utilized whatsoever previously. It seems like they're actually interested in giving him at least a name in this issue. And I do want to say that fight with Miss Marvel having the Dr. Octopus original arms was spot on. It was awesome. Lastly, I want to talk about Wreck Rap. Yeah, that Spider character that they just had to invite to go save Spider-Man in the story. Wreck Rap fights the Green Goblin and manages to overpower him. And we also get Wreck Rap alluding to the fact that he wants to kiss the Green Goblin. He finds him attractive. Even though Wreck Rap has the Green Goblin pinned down, the Green Goblin manages to escape somehow and pin down Wreck Rap. And this is when the Green Goblin uses his special attack where he summons his glider to impale the character as he jumps out of the way. Now, it's assumed that Wreck Rap has met his demise here, although I don't personally believe that. There's no way this giant character managed to kick the bucket from this simple attack. And by the way, what's up with the Green Goblin repeatedly using this attack? This motherfucker copied it from Spider-Man. Come on now. You don't have to have read the comics to know. You at least have to have watched the Tobey Maguire first Spider-Man movie. The glider comes in, it's about to hit Spider-Man, but Spider-Man jumps out of the way and hits the Green Goblin in the process, having him KO himself. Now, for some reason, that's like a Green Goblin staple attack that he's just repeatedly using. Almost feels like I'm playing Marvel vs. Capcom, and that's just an attack that he has. I've noticed in some of my personal favorite ASM comics, whenever they do copy an event from the past, like let's say the Gwen Stacy falling from the bridge, some of the greatest stories that have replicated that moment, I didn't fully realize that they were replicating that moment until the very end, where I'm like, hey, what? Truth be told, it's by the time that the comic book itself is pointing out that that's the moment in place where Spider-Man had lost Gwen Stacy, and of course he's re-experiencing that same moment. If you can replicate the moment in a very subtle way, that's cool. I dig it. But when you're spamming that attack like it's some sort of special move in Marvel vs. Capcom, it does tend to get old very quickly. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you today. Let me know what your thoughts are on the comic book itself. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? And if you enjoyed this video at any point, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.